Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a hidden conflict that is, right now, completely reshaping our world. You know, this isn't a war fought with soldiers and tanks. Nope, it's fought with code, with data, and with algorithms. And honestly, the outcome is going to decide who writes the rules for the rest of this century.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a question that seems simple, but has gotten incredibly complicated. For, centuries, the answer was pretty easy, right? It was nations, governments, states. But that is all changing, and probably a lot faster than you think.
You know, we all grew up thinking the answer was governments, these territorial sovereigns who control land and write the laws. But now, a totally new kind of power has shown up on the scene, the digital sovereigns. And these are the big algorithmic corporations. We're talking Google, Meta, Amazon, whose power doesn't come from borders, but from code and encryption. And this collision, it's kicked off a huge, invisible protocol war.
And let's be super clear here. This isn't just about some friendly competition for market share. No way. This is a fundamental conflict that's going to define the very nature of how we're all governed in the future. It's really a battle over whether the laws written by politicians or the code written by programmers will have the final say.
So if we're going to get a handle on this conflict, we need a new way to measure power. It's not enough to just look at GDP or the size of an army anymore. We need a way to actually quantify this new power struggle.
And it's called the sovereignty gap. And it is a brilliant way to see who's really calling the shots. Basically, it measures the space between what a government says it can do on paper and what it can actually enforce in the real world when it comes up against the power of technology.
The formula for it is actually super simple. The sovereignty gap equals legal authority minus operational control. So, think about it like this. A country can pass a law to access encrypted data. That gives them really high legal authority, but if they don't have the technical chops to actually break that encryption, their operational control is pretty much zero, and that creates a massive sovereignty gap.
And this right here, this is what happens when that gap gets too big. You end up with what's called a hollow state. It's a government that looks powerful on the surface, with all its laws and regulations, but in reality, it has very little actual control. Its laws are on the books, but they don't have any real-world effect because corporations and code have just found a way to go right around them.
So where is this war really being fought? Let's break down 3 of the most critical digital battlefronts where this whole struggle for sovereignty is going down right now, every single day.
Okay, first up, the fight over data. It's the absolute lifeblood of the digital world. Let's be real. Whoever controls the data pretty much controls the future.
Now, sometimes the state wins, like when the EU forced US companies to process data locally to keep it safe from American surveillance. But other times, corporations use things like encryption and cloud architecture to make their data basically impossible for states to touch. Just look at Telegram in Russia. The government tried to ban it, but Telegram just rerouted all its traffic through Google and Amazon servers. So to block Telegram, Russia would have had to literally break its own internet. And guess what? The state eventually just gave up.
All right, next up is the battle for the physical hardware that the entire digital world is built on. We're talking about the guts of the system. Semiconductors, servers, satellites, all of it.
States, for sure, try to control these supply chains with things like export bans. A good example is the US successfully pressuring its allies to block advanced chip tag from getting to China. But then you get a case like Starlink in Ukraine. Here you have Elon Musk, a CEO, basically running his own foreign policy, deciding where his satellites would work in a war zone and dictating terms directly to the Pentagon. A corporation became the key geopolitical actor. It's wild.
The third front is the war over information itself. What we see, what we share, and at the end of the day, what we believe. You could say this is the battle for reality itself. Now, a state can throw its weight around here in a big way. Like when India just banned TikTok overnight, citing national security, and just poof, wiped it from the market. But more often than not, states are kind of powerless to regulate the algorithms that shape what we all talk about. In the US, for example, even after those explosive Facebook files came out, meaningful regulation has been pretty much impossible. And what that means is that corporate terms of service have become the de facto law for what you can and can't say online.
So what's the endgame here? Why does this all matter? Well, the outcome of these battles isn't just some academic debate. It's going to create radically different futures for all of us. Let's look at a couple of possible scenarios of where this could all be heading.
So in one possible future, corporations don't just win. They become the new states. They write the laws, they issue the currency, and they control the land.
Just try to imagine this for a second. A world where your rights and where you live aren't guaranteed by a constitution, but they're tied to a corporate subscription service. Maybe you live in the Amazon fulfillment zone, and your visa is an NFT that's tied to your Google Prime citizenship. And your personal safety? Well, that's just a premium add-on you can pay for.
But, okay, what if the states win? What if they react to all this corporate power by just clamping down completely? Well, the result could be a world of total centralized control.
Now, this future is something else. Imagine some terrible AI-driven catastrophe happens. So a global body is created to monitor all computing. Encryption is made illegal. The internet as we know it, gone. It's replaced by a clean net where only approved sites even exist. And some AI is constantly monitoring your thoughts for deviant ideation. And if it finds any, whoops, there goes your social credit score.
Look, this isn't just some geopolitical game for think tanks and CEOs to play. This conflict is fundamentally changing what citizenship even is and what it means to belong to a society.
If there's one core thing to take away from all this, it's that the struggle between states and these giant platforms isn't just about privacy settings or antitrust lawsuits. It's a battle for sovereignty itself. It's about who gets to decide the fundamental rules we all have to live by.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on as we all try to navigate this new reality. When your digital identity, your data, your access to information, when all of that is controlled by a global corporation, what power does that little booklet from your government truly hold?